Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night WrestleCast. We are on the eve of WrestleMania weekend. I'm here joined by my fellow co-hosts, the infamous vacant opponent, Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk about some wrestling. We haven't been here for a while now.
Awesome, awesome. And also joined by Bray Wyatt's advocate, Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing?
Doing good, Ricky. Yes, I'm very excited to talk with you all, but I don't know if I'm excited to talk about wrestling. So we'll see how the show goes.
That's definitely understandable. I will admit, as someone who um, is a longtime wrestling fan, but I have not really been into the weekly shows. I think that's something that I've been saying the last few WrestleCasts. So forgive me if I'm repeating myself here. But it's WrestleMania weekend, and it's something that it's the biggest weekend in wrestling all year, and so we're gonna dive into these matches and make our predictions to the best of our ability because I mean again a lot of these buildups happen just in a flash, like right from Royal Rumble or whatever, and there's some matchups are more compelling than others, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I just want to again thank you all again for joining us for this, and it is a 2 night affair, which they started doing not last year. I'm sorry, 2 years ago, and finally caught up with New Japan's, Wrestle Kingdom in that regard, where they're like, we have so many great, talented wrestlers. One night's not enough time to feature them all, so let's do 2 nights. Here's the problem, though, is that they're not doing it exactly the way Wrestle Kingdom does, because Wrestle Kingdom I believe they have bigger cards on those nights. These are small, like regular pay-per-view cards, but they're just doing it on 2 nights. So instead of having your 14 match 1 night deal that goes from like 5 o'clock to midnight or whatever, it's spread out through 2 nights. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, particularly with the roster being as depleted as it's ever been, and still seeing some of these talents relegated to the Andre Battle Royal on SmackDown, not even on WrestleMania. This was supposed to be a thing that was special to WrestleMania. It's now on free television on SmackDown. I mean, I'm rambling here, but it's just one of those things where like I feel like it could be executed better. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Which one do you want to
I
go
don't have an
first?
issue.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So you don't
I
have any
didn't
issue
really
with the
have,
format.
no, I really didn't have an issue with the format because it would be so long. It would take up, the whole day and then you would have to recover and people have to go into work on Monday. So I never really had an issue with them making it 2 nights, even though you still have to go to work on Monday. But it wasn't, 14 hours straight. Especially now that you're older, that's not as fun as when I was a kid, watching this with like what, 7, 10 years old, and like I have a whole day. But now that I'm older, that's not fun anymore. So I really like that they broke it up for the 2 days. My issue is the quality of matches. Sometimes it can feel like an overextended Raw show. So
Yep.
Mm.
if they worked on the quality of matches and not fill, because what they end up doing a majority of the time is they fill up the time with promos. And this is what happened 2 weeks ago. And then they keep it on that cycle of this is what happened when we last pay-per-view that they aired was the Super Show that I remember.
Mhm.
And the Super Show, there was technically like an hour and change of just actual wrestling. Everything else was all promo and pre-taped and just going over matches that we already rehashed from weeks ago. That's the only problem that I have. If you're able to have a very consistent and tight show with quality matches and matches that people care about, I don't have a problem. Throw in some surprises so things are not completely predictable, because this is your one show once a year that's considered the Super Bowl of wrestling. I mean, we have a whole thing with WrestleCon itself. Be the organization where everyone has to go to. I watched the Ring of Honor Supercard pay-per-view. Their matches were stellar. I mean, and this is someone with what, a quarter of the budget than what WWE has. It's all about quality matches and making me care. And that is what I think WWE hasn't done in a long time. I mean, years. I can't even remember what was the last solid WrestleMania. What, 17? So
Well, I'll jump in real quickly and give Rich a chance to chime in, but I definitely agree with you, Dana, as far as the quality of matches could stand to be better. I mean, that was one of the things that, not to sound like a mark about this, but I loved Wrestle Kingdom because almost every match was a quality one up and down the card. So like, even though the event was long, it didn't really feel like it because you were drawn in every match. You didn't feel like, oh, they gotta go through this one. They gotta go through this one. Every match was compelling, even if you didn't have the context to it. And that's the thing also that you went into about all these promos that they do, these vignettes about like, oh, well, here's what's been happening the last few weeks on SmackDown, and here's what's been happening on Raw. Recaps that if you're a regular viewer, you've already seen this shit a million times. You don't need to be reminded. But WrestleMania is treated as something for the casual viewer who's not following in. So you can dive right into it and be like, okay, we know that you haven't been watching for months. That's okay. We're going to tell you everything in 2 minutes of why this match is important. And here you go. Wrestle Kingdom doesn't do that. They just go, bing, bing, bell. Here comes the next opponents. You should already assume to know that they've got beef or whatever. And even if you don't, they're going to put on a hell of a match, and that's the most important thing. Sports entertainment, is all about the story and not so much about the action in the ring, in my opinion. So that's why they have kind of this approach to things. And I agree as far as the quality, but I feel as though they can get away with having it be a one-night thing as long as they did it on a Saturday, not a Sunday, because you have Sunday to recover. They're not giving people time to recover if they're doing it on a Sunday night, because then Monday, everyone's drained and whatever. But that's what I think. I don't know. What do you have to say, Rich?
I agree 100% with what Dana had to say about the quality. I think that is very important, because the match quality means that it doesn't need to be as many matches. Mm-hmm. And as we go into this recap, I see that there are 7 matches on Saturday and 7 matches on Sunday. In my personal opinion, there's only 7 matches that need to be a WrestleMania, period. And I will reveal what matches shouldn't be on this card at all when we get into the predictions, because a lot of them, they could have just been on Raw, SmackDown, and that would have been it. And by the way, let me also add this last point. NXT Stand and Deliver is happening tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm 100% certain that will be a better show than WrestleMania itself. I'm just going to say it. Even though this is not the same NXT, some stuff on that card looks like it'll be a little bit more interesting than what I see on the Saturday night WrestleMania card. So we'll see if we are correct about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. I mean, as it's always been with NXT and their takeovers and all that, Stand and Deliver is a very interesting name because it's their chance to kind of deliver with the spotlight on them. And these are young and hungry talents that are looking to showcase what they can do, and every year we get these great takeovers. And even if it's, is it called takeover or is it just Stand and Deliver? I mean,
no, it's just called Stand and Deliver.
Okay, so they're completely rebranding all that, but the spirit of it should remain, and like I said, it'll probably be compelling television to watch, and I plan on tuning in to check it out, even though I have not been watching NXT 2.0 because I'm just not interested in that. But when this is their WrestleMania, so be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, let's get right into this. We got the first night, WrestleMania Saturday. We're gonna go up and down the card based on what we see listed, and so what I see first is a singles match for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. It is featuring the champion Becky Lynch going up against challenger Bianca Belair. Dana, would you please start us off?
Cool. This was really interesting, and then they kind of dropped the ball with this. It's great to see Bianca Belair back into the mix after they did her so dirty the last WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania. It was a while ago. Anyway,
SummerSlam.
yes, SummerSlam. Sorry, and it all mixes in together after a while. So I'm happy that she went and put her back in there in that spotlight again. I really do want Bianca Belair to win this because she was cheated out so terribly previously. It wasn't even the fact that she lost. People were fine with that. It was just the way how it happened in 3 seconds. So I really do want her to get her redemption. She owes it to this, they owe it to us for this. What was really interesting is the whole feud. I thought this was supposed to be like a hair versus hair match at first, because remember, she came out there and gave her a really nice layered haircut. I'm like, I don't even know what they were trying to do with this, because I was like, I saw the scissors and I was like, oh, she's gonna go bald. You know how that usually ends up being, where she has to shave or she gets the pixie. But it was like a really nice layered trim where she took off maybe 1.5 inches. I don't understand the purpose of this at all, aside from she wanted to cut her hair, and so we're gonna just make it a storyline. But overall, I do want Bianca to win, but I don't know. I feel that Becky might just be the one who continues with this, and then later on we'll get the next, what is it? Maybe by the next year, she'll drop the title. But my heart is with Bianca. Just as long as you don't, cut her hair, don't touch her hair. And also, really quickly, the marketing for this was really bad. And I don't know if it's because people are completely tone deaf, but there was a whole thing about, Bianca had a shirt on that says, "Don't touch my hair." And then Becky Lynch had something else going on, was like, "I'm going to grab your hair." It was a really bad image how they tried to do this, but I didn't like how they marketed this. It was tone deaf because, the Black community was the thing about your hair. But yeah, I said what I said.
Was this like another kind of like PlayStation cringy billboard?
It was a cringy. Here's the thing, and I think it was actually steeped in ignorance, because there's a whole thing about not touching Black people's hair. That's just a thing, and I think it was just steeped in ignorance and not so much of it purposely going out there and being racist or anything.
Right. I mentioned the it was I don't know if it was like a PlayStation Vita or something like that. It was like this weird billboard where it was like a white woman all in white and a Black woman all in black and all that stuff, and it was like the white woman was like threatening the Black one or whatever, and it was like some PlayStation thing. This was like in Amsterdam or something, and Sony had to like apologize and take that down. And I was like, oh, this was taken out of context and blah blah blah. This was years back. I don't remember the exact thing, but it could be one of those things where the message they were trying to convey was not what was intended, but it didn't come out well.
No, it didn't come out well at all. But I think it was just solely based on actual ignorance.
That's cool.
It's just ignorance.
I am with you as far as rooting for Bianca. I also think it would have been fine for Becky to win in her first first night back,
Mhm.
if the match at least lasted 5 minutes, it was like 20 seconds. And we've discussed this before that like too many times we see our black champions get squashed in short time. We saw it with Kofi. We saw it with Bianca. It's just a horrible look. And I hated that they had Becky be the one to do that on top of that. And I get why they did it, because that's a way to put heat on her and everything. But it's like, poor Bianca, like she did not deserve that. And so I am hoping they do right and that they will have her, that Becky will get her comeuppance and that Bianca will win. I just have this feeling it's not going to happen. I think Becky's going to retain. That's the feeling I have. That's the gut feeling I have right now. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but that's what I'm sensing from this. What do you think, Rich?
Well, that's a very interesting opinion. I think it's very obvious that Bianca Belair is winning the match. I think WWE acknowledges that they made a bad decision to do what they did with Becky Lynch, although they will never admit this. I think that was a poor decision. And by the way, while I do give Becky Lynch credit for coming back and proving that she can be a heel, even though she was still getting cheered, I think everyone knows that the WrestleMania match was supposed to be Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey because they had unfinished business. And I'm pretty sure that that'll be the match next year in Hollywood. But I'm 100% rooting for Bianca Belair to win, because I'm pretty sure even Becky Lynch wants her to win. But now it'll be a bigger deal because it's at WrestleMania and all this other stuff. So definitely Belair is who I picked to win.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be a great way to wrap up that story, I just don't know what the plan is. If Becky drops the belt to Bianca, what's the plan for both of them at that point? Like, who's Bianca going to feud with next? Who's Becky going to feud with next?
Well,
what do you guys think?
That's a great question. I have no idea. I know that I saw there were rumors that Asuka was going to be returning. She's actually in Dallas now, from what the rumors I've heard. Nice. A couple people, and I also heard that Bayley is also there too. So I would not be surprised if either of them show up at WrestleMania in some capacity. But I personally think, well, I guess if Belair loses the match, it's going to be because somebody gets involved. But I hope they don't go that route. I think she needs to win the match. That's just my opinion.
One thing I'm gonna say before we move on, I was gonna shamelessly mention the shirt that I have is the WrestleMania from Dallas. The last time it was in Dallas in 2016. A very special one for me because as a kid I dreamt about going to WrestleMania. I finally got to realize that with my friend Richard. We went to that, and I'm jealous of everyone that's there this weekend in Dallas. It's so much fun. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. And this hat, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this hat is from WrestleMania in New Jersey. Okay. And that was the last one that I've gone to. And I got to meet both of you guys there, at least in the area or whatever. So, and that was a WrestleMania that was capped off with Becky Lynch winning the women's championship against Ronda and Charlotte, as you may recall. And I thought it's just interesting that, the one in 2019, that was the triple threat women's title match. It's main evented at WrestleMania. Yeah, it's crazy.
I felt like years ago.
And for those that are curious, don't worry, there will be another souvenir because I hear a rumor that Ricky, Dana, and myself will be at WrestleMania next year when The Rock finally beats the hell out of Roman Reigns.
Oh, that's a spicy
We
take
shall.
right there. That's a spicy take.
First
right
row.
yeah.
That's spicy.
Yeah, first row
indeed.
camera side. We'll be right there. You'll see our ugly mugs on
That's
there.
actually fun. That would be awesome. Again, I can chase down the other woman who I thought was Paige and scare her. What are you doing, Paige? That was glorious. Almost got arrested that one. Oh, wow. And by the way, I remembered what it was. It was the band the braid shirt. It was just poor timing because it's like black women and hair, and then they just passed the crown act, so it was just poor timing.
Oh yeah, that's not a good look. Yeah, no. Very tone deaf there, but you know.
But I second what Richard said. Oh my God, Bailey.
Bianca.
Bailey has not been seen on TV. No, Bailey hasn't been seen on TV for like 10 years by now. And so she has to be involved. Has to.
Yeah, Bailey's been out since they were still in the Thunderdome. So
jeez.
Yeah, 2 years? It's been a while.
Ago. Jeez. Louise.
Mm-hmm. At least I think I might be getting it wrong, but I think that's how it's been. It's been since the Thunderdome. But let's move on to the next match. This is a tag team match between the Mysterios, Ray and Dominik, going up against the Miz and Logan Paul. I don't care for this match at all, in the slightest. I will just say the Mysterios win because they're the babyface. I just don't care about this match. I don't know what you guys think.
All right, I guess I'll jump in here. I tagged myself in. This is one of the matches that does not need to be on the WrestleMania card. I mean, listen, shout out to Rey Mysterio. I'm glad that he was able to get his shine in WWE 2K22. Actually, the showcase mode is actually very good. But with all due respect, you could have given this guy a better opponent. And I will also add that I was waiting, eagerly anticipating the moment when his son would turn on him, because that is a match that I would want to see. And the longer WWE waits for that match to happen, the less interested I am in. So obviously Ray and his son will win, and then Logan Paul can go off and do something else. I'm tired of seeing this guy, in a wrestling ring. I know it's there for a celebrity that you need to have at the show, but come on, guys. This is a match we did not need on this card. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that you're looking up and down the card, there are at least 3 matches, possibly 4, that are going to feature people who are not wrestlers or full-time wrestlers or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I understand they're doing that because it's WrestleMania and we always got to have celebrities do stuff. But yeah, I don't know, Dana, what do you think?
Here is the thing with this. I don't know why WWE keeps thinking that Logan Paul is a thing. Like, I just don't understand. Like, literally nobody cares. I understand we need a celebrity because that's what WrestleMania has always done. Ratings or not, you go back to WrestleMania 3 with Cyndi Lauper, and you have the big one with Mike Tyson. But the thing is, pick your celebrities right. No one gives a fart about Logan Paul, and they've been doing it for it felt like a year now. He was in wasn't he in WrestleMania last year? It kind of feels like, or at least SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I think that right there is terrible. It's just terrible booking in general. I hope that it is the Mysterios, but at the end of the match, I'm going to need Dominik to turn on Ray, because what is the point at this right now? Rey Mysterio was such an established wrestler just in his own right He doesn't really need any kind of push or anything. He's just one of those guys he's been in the company for so long. He's been wrestling for so long that, he can do whatever. Him turning heel, just in general, cool. Another thing he turned heel. We've seen this, 20 years ago or whatever. But for Dominik to break away, I feel, and to truly stand out and make a name for himself, he has to get rid of his dad. And I need there to be that feud. And if we're going to do the feud, I want a full feud. Bring up, am I really your son? Or even that, I never loved you, Dad. Just go full cornball with it, because eventually WWE is going to be corny with it. Remember the whole Bella twin breakup with the whole, I should have killed you in the womb.
No, you should have died in the womb. Yeah,
you should have died in the womb.
So awful.
Embrace your corniness, but just give me something that makes me care about Dominik in general. I understand he needed his father, and even just as a wrestling standpoint, he was very green. Now he has matches in there. He's been showcasing himself. He's somewhat on the mic. Let him see if he can stand on his own and let them win, and then he turns on his dad. And then just get rid of Logan Paul. I don't want to see him anymore. What's even the point?
That's something that we can all agree with there, Yeah, the thing with Dominik is it could go one of two ways. Like I heard I can't remember who mentioned it online, but they said that like Ray may have a thing where like you have to earn the mask, and that it could have Dominik eventually earn the mask, and that would be like an emotional moment and whatever. So it can either go that way, or it can go the other way, where Dominik's like, I'm going to shed the Mysterio name entirely. I'm going to be my own person and, turn heel or whatever. That's the one I've wanted. I've wanted that since the pandemic, when you had, that moment with Dominik standing behind Ray during the feud with Seth, and you thought Seth Rollins, and we thought that's the moment right there. And then it never happened. And it's like, oh, shoot. Because it was, I know I keep going on about this, but it was tailor-made for that kind of thing. Seth Rollins was building his own heel faction, and Dominik would have been a perfect guy to throw in there to groom, and everything. And it just didn't happen. Okay, Rich, you had something to say?
I just wanted to add a very quick point. I agree 100%, but I will say if nothing happens with Dominik at WrestleMania, this is a missed opportunity, because even in the WWE 2K22 game, the bonus match that you wrestle at the end of Rey Mysterio's showcase is a tag match with his son, and it unlocks Dominik as a playable character. So clearly, there's a lot of focus on Dominik. So I kind of feel like if nothing happens with him at WrestleMania on an individual level, that is a missed opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking, I don't know if you guys can kind of help me out with this, but weren't they building up some tension between the two, where Dominik didn't want Ray's help, or they were losing matches and stuff, and Dominik was getting dejected and like kind of walking away and everything. What have they done with that since then, or have they gone away from that?
I haven't been watching the show weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is that they have gone away from it, because I haven't heard anything about any tension. But I guess if something happens in the match, then they lose, then I guess he'll get angry afterwards. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want Miz and Logan Paul to win for obvious reasons. It's just nothing against the Miz, but Logan Paul, go away, man.
Yeah.
But the only bright side is that if the Mysterios lose, is that it's like, okay, that's got to be where they split, or something. But I don't know. Have them do a low blow the same way that Shinsuke Nakamura did to AJ Styles. That was hilarious. Like, it was so stupid, but it was hilarious. It's like the heel. It was a heel turn that no one expected, and it was shocking and everything, and it was great. Well, I'm glad that we were able to get some dialogue out of that match, at least. So, that's why you guys are the best. Let's go with another SmackDown quality match, and Drew McIntyre going against Happy Corbin with Madcap Moss at ringside. Which one of you want to go first?
Child, this should have been a sound match. The issue is, it's so sad just in general watching Drew McIntyre. You know, he's a really great wrestler, and he came back and he's all slim and trim and fit, and they made him a champion. It was just because it was right during the pandemic, and no one was there to celebrate, and he deserved so much more. And then he lost, and then they made him a champion again. But it just seems like it's so lackluster. Like, his runs has just been deflated, and I don't know what it is to make it to reinflate again. And now he's with Happy Corbin, which, you know, no offense to Baron Corbin, he's good in his own right, but this has been lackluster. This feels like it's one of those random things that's put together. And it's just really sad, and it goes to show you like how high you can be on the card 1 minute, you're main eventing WrestleMania, and now you're in, like, you know, a D match. And it just doesn't, like, no one really cares in general overall. And I hope that Drew gets a successful run eventually. He's the Jared Leto of the WWE right now. So overall, I just think that Drew McIntyre needs to win, and then maybe they'll turn Happy into Matt Corbin.
Okay, Rich, what do you think?
It appears to me that they are invested in Madcap Moss for some reason. So my guess is that while Drew McIntyre should just get a clean win, Madcap Moss is probably going to cause Baron Corbin to lose a match. And they can eventually get this thing over with, because clearly they're going to eventually split. I mean, it's only a matter of time. But in terms of what I think about this match, this is once again another match that does not need to be on the WrestleMania card. It is unfortunate that Drew McIntyre finds himself in this situation, because he deserves a better opponent. I mean, this is the guy that should be facing Roman Reigns right now for the title, in my opinion. But no, they have this match here. So Drew McIntyre wins. He gets his WrestleMania moment, and hopefully after this is over with, we don't see any more matches between him and Happy Corbin or Madcap Moss, for that matter.
Man, I agree as far as, like, it should have been Drew to get the rub against Roman, you know, because it's, you know, Drew McIntyre, like, you know, he was robbed of his moment. And, you know, he didn't get to have it last year because Bobby Lashley retained. And I'm like, okay, they're just building it up for another year. And like, you know, as Dana said, you know, Happy Corbin is a solid worker and everything, but I hate saying this because I've met Corbin, he's cool and everything, but I'm still surprised that he gets singles matches at WrestleMania. I just don't think he puts on that kind of caliber of a match. I just don't. Sorry, man, don't kill me if you see this or hear this, but no, this feels like a kind of a placeholder match for Drew of, like, we don't have anything for you this year. But usually when things like this happen, they'll be like, okay, we're going to have you kind of take a back seat this time, but we'll do you a solid. And I think once once Drew's done with this, they're going to put him back in the main event picture. You just have to get through this right now because the main event has other people in there at the moment. So I think that's all this is, just kind of to pass the time. And I'm sure, like, once we get around to, like, SummerSlam, Drew will have a much bigger program planned out for him. But in the meantime, absolutely, Drew McIntyre will be the one to win this. They had Corbin make a joke that was very out of line on SmackDown tonight. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. Okay, well then, so as you may or may not know, Corbin, stole Drew McIntyre's Claymore, that he named after his mom, and Corbin's joke was, oh goodness, I don't know if I even want to say it. Yeah. Well, okay, so the joke was, and I'm sure what's it called, Drew okayed it, and that's why they had Drew come out afterwards and fight off Corbin and everything. But the joke was, what does this Claymore and Drew's mom have in common? And it's that Drew lost both of them. It was very, very out of line. I was like, damn. So then Drew McIntyre comes out. He beats up. Moss. He hits Corbin with the chair and gets the Claymore back and starts throwing all this stuff out. So that's done to get. That's some cheap heat right there. Man, I bet that was Vince's idea. He's totally the kind of guy.
That was terrible.
That's
bad. Worse than G.I. Jane.
That's in poor taste, man. Wow. But yeah, Drew's. So they did that to kind of get people invested. But that's how they closed out. That's how they closed out SmackDown, by the way. They closed out SmackDown with that segment. Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin. Just a heads up. But Drew's totally winning that. And as you said, they're building up this tension and to split between Corbin and Moss. Because Corbin went on how he was kind of he sounded jealous of Madcap Moss winning the Andre Battle Royal by Corbin being like, oh yeah, I've done that already, and blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't think that split's going to happen at Mania. It might happen at the SmackDown afterwards, but it's happening definitely. And Madcap seems to be someone that they're ready to kind of give a little push to. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, let's move on. Unless you guys have anything else that you want to add. Nothing. Yeah, I'm speechless too. So it is.
That joke was like, up. I don't want to laugh, but that was funny.
It's that kind of dark humor thing, and goodness, yeah. No. Next one is a tag team match for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship, and it is featuring the champions of the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, going up against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. I'll go first with this one. I guess Nakamura and Boogs will win, only not because I feel like they've been built up to be this great tag team or whatever, but it's time for the Usos to drop the belts. And I think that and good for them for getting on the card, because I still remember last year with Jey Uso absolutely killing it on SmackDown, main event after main event, only to be stuck on the Andre Battle Royal and only having to be ringside with Roman Reigns. He's actually getting to compete with his brother Jimmy. So good on them on that. But time to drop the belts. Nakamura and Rick Boogs, even if they haven't tagged up very long, they've been together for the past year and everything. And, you got the whole thing with Pat McAfee dancing like crazy every time and all that. And it's kind of good to just give a fresh new. The tag division is not really stellar, honestly, in WWE, and it's kind of fine to experiment with different teams, and Nakamura and Boogs, I think, is a team that people can get behind. So I'm going to say that they win and they become the new SmackDown Tag Champions. You guys, let's hear your predictions.
All right, I'll go next. I agree with pretty much what you said. Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, they're going to win. because this will place doubt that Roman Reigns is going to retain once the Usos lose. So, my humble opinion, because the Usos are affiliated with Roman Reigns, I feel that's why this match is on the WrestleMania card. But I personally don't think it needs to be on the WrestleMania card. So this would be my pick for another match that doesn't need to be on this card. But hey, it is what it is. So let's hear what Dana has to say.
Right now, I think, first of all, congratulations to Undertaker. It's like 20 minutes and you're still giving him a standing ovation. I think
That's
that
still shorter than his entrance. But yeah, I had to. I'm
you
sorry.
had to.
Continue.
You did really good. Man's crying. He's trying to not cry for like the past 20 minutes. You're still, oh, it's so sweet. Anyway, so here's the issue. Remember when Shinsuke Nakamura used to be somebody? And remember how they had, like, he was a big commodity just in general, and how now what they've just basically have him again in like these D matches where he's just a wrestler. I can't even say a wrestler. He's just whatever sports entertainment he's doing, it's not entertaining. And it's like 2 seconds of sports. I have to agree what was previously stated. I am absolutely tired of the Usos. I think, and we had this conversation previously, the Usos would not be in such a great limelight constantly if it wasn't for Roman Reigns. Shots fired, bing, 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 but it's getting tiresome. You can be very talented and everything else. We said this a lot about other people. You know, remember there was a moment where people just was really tired of John Cena. Remember the whole situation with Brock Lesnar. I'm just personally tired of seeing the Usos. I'm tired of them having belts. I'm tired of the New Day. And I hope everyone just find something else, break up, do something else. But I don't know whether or not that'll happen. But I do think that Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, whatever, definitely need to win this. They need won the championship, and they just need a win. Rick is surprisingly very much over. I think he does more guitar playing than he's ever did wrestling, especially just in WWE itself. So I'm really happy in general that they gave Rick opportunity to wrestle in WrestleMania. I'm very happy for that. My thing is this the way that Shinsuke has been treated for a couple years now, where he was the big thing. Remember, he would be the main event. Remember the violins? The violinist would come in and it would do that whole thing. And then remember when he turned heel and they tried to change his music, but the fans were not having it and they still sung over it. Those used to be the glory days, the great days. I miss NXT. But overall, I would like Shinsuke and Rick Boogs to win it, and the Usos. They have so many roles that they're doing just in general. You have them as a tag match. I mean, as a tag team. Then you have them as part of Roman Reigns' entourage bodyguards at this point. So I think they just need a break. I would personally like for them to have a break. I don't know if they're like, yay, paycheck. Me, I need a break from them. So that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, I want to continue to what you said, Dana, about Shinsuke Nakamura and how they've kind of made him less of a deal. Because I'm thinking all the way back to when he was first signed, and he was like the biggest signing that they've had, like the biggest overseas signing ever. Such a huge thing. He was one of the best wrestlers in the world at the time of the signing. It was such a major thing. And, you know, the takeover that Rich and I went to in Dallas, that was sold out quickly, and it was the toughest ticket to get because of Nakamura making his debut. It was such a huge deal. And then, you know, you go and you have that, you hotshot him to the NXT title, you have him win the Royal Rumble, and then they completely sabotaged him at that WrestleMania by having AJ Styles retain the belt. He could have dropped it. AJ had the belt for so long. He's had it multiple times. He didn't need to hold on to it. That could have been the time to have Nakamura have a run. They did that. They sidetracked that whole thing. They turned him heel. They did not have him win any world championship with it, and he got stuck in the mid card since then. And I'm glad they tried having him be a heel, because it's the first time that I got to see him work as a heel. I've heard so many great things about his New Japan work, as a heel, and I was entertained by it, but I didn't like that. Of course, as a heel, he wasn't winning, and they weren't really doing anything with him, and like him winning the United States Championship was like nothing. It's not the same thing as winning the Universal Championship or the WWE Championship, whichever one it was at the time. It deserves so much better, and I feel like now, like, that ship has sailed, because he's in that stage of kind of like coasting it, and like this is kind of his retirement tour as far as like working in WWE. So, I mean, it'll be nice for him to at least get that WrestleMania moment of winning a championship, at WrestleMania, but we'll see. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts before we continue to the next match. No? Okay. Let's move on. Thank you guys for the input. We got a tag team match with nothing at stake. It is between the New Day of Xavier Woods. He's still King Woods, right? Is he still King Woods?
No, they changed the name now again, right? They changed his name again.
Well, I guess. Well, okay, then
probably Xavier, because you know how Vince likes to shorten stuff.
Yeah, just Xavier, yeah, or just Woods. And Kofi against Sheamus and Ridge Holland with, I can't even say it. I can't say it. It's Pete Dunne. With Pete Dunne. Which one of you guys want to go first on that? Okay, Rich, go ahead.
All right. Unpopular opinion, but I don't care. This is a match that did not need to be on this card. Now, let me explain why I say that.
I'm sensing a theme, but continue.
We know what happened with Big E a couple of weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. The WrestleMania match was supposed to be all of New Day versus these three guys. So them deciding to move forward with the match, I guess is fine. But in my personal opinion, I would have just had this on SmackDown tonight. And instead, I don't know, maybe put your Intercontinental Champion or your United States Champion in a match at WrestleMania. I mean, I don't know. That's a far-fetched thought, I guess. But will it be a good match? Yeah, I'm sure it'll be pretty decent. Do I think that WWE feels a little guilty about what happened with Big E and they can give this win to the New Day? Perhaps, yes. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. Although I would say if you're trying to build Ridge Holland and Pete Dunne, because I also will not refer to him to the dumb name that they gave him on the main roster, I would have had them win instead of New Day. But I think New Day wins this because they feel bad about what happened to Big E, and they want to try to make that situation right. So I picked New Day to win it. But yeah, it should not have been on this card, in my opinion.
I'm with you as far as it shouldn't really have been on the card. Even if Big E was healthy and participating in the match, it was a huge downgrade from him being the WWE champion just a few months ago. Still pissed about that. And honestly, again, like, I don't think that having New Day win this match is going to make anything right or change anything. And I felt like the plan all along was to build up this group that Sheamus has. And because New Day have done everything. Okay. They've done everything. They've won it all. Sheamus and Ridge Holland stand to benefit more by winning than the New Day do. And that's why I think that they will win this match. With interference with Butch. Yeah. I can't even say his name. But yeah, Dana, let's hear your thoughts on this match.
I don't have any problem saying Butcher. because Butcher and the Blade.
Yes. Where's
And
the
also,
bunny?
where's the bunny? We need a bunny. Is Alexa getting rebranded as Bunny? Um, but I don't know why they would go with Butcher, especially when Butcher and the Blade was already taken. Whatever. I think, like I said previously, with the Usos, I don't want to see the New Day anymore. It's just oversaturated of day. So I'm perfectly fine with Sheamus and Ridge Holland and Bunny Blade basically taking over that. And I think that the team of Butch should win because he's finally making his debut. He's on WrestleMania. He has a brand new name to go with his brand new gimmick. So why not let him win? But then again, this is WWE, so I won't be surprised if the New Day ends up winning. But I really think that it would be much smarter to have, Butch minus Blade and Bunny.
Well, it's also one of those things where faces and heels and all that, and you got to have some heels win. And I feel like this is one of those cases where
But
the heel team winning makes sense.
here's the weird thing, though. In terms of WWE, especially not recently, do they genuinely matter when it comes to heels and faces? They do things that don't really make any sense, and even with the booking doesn't make any sense. So when they're like, "Oh, heels have to win and faces have to win something," I don't even think they view that anymore. After certain times we've even seen where it's just two people, they go and have a match and that's it. And I kind
No,
of feel like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm saying this from the perspective of like seeing how these results tend to go with these
Mhm.
WrestleManias, that it tends to be a little bit balanced, but there are occasional pay-per-views where it's very heel heavy or very face heavy as far as the results. Um, I want to say that there was a pay-per-view in the last couple of years where it was all heels that won, and it's like, wow, Vince was pissed off that day when he woke up and he decided to book all heels. Um, but
He was jealous of the
yeah,
show.
I just think that regardless of affiliation, that with Sheamus and Rich Holland, that uh, they are the ones, and Pete Dunne, they are the ones that they are trying to shine a light on as far as up and coming. I mean, this kind of reminds me in a way of again the last WrestleMania in Dallas, where the New Day, where they have just recently turned face, went up against the League of Nations, and the League of Nations won that match. But then they all got their asses beat by Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley and Stone Cold, as we remember. Yeah. Um, Maybe we get something like that again, but yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts before we go on to the next match? And this should be an interesting one. Okay. I am very interested in this one. Seth freaking Rollins against the infamous vacant opponent to be announced by Mr. McMahon. He will be the one to announce it when Seth Rollins is in the ring. And that opponent will definitely be our own Dana Abercrombie. And she is going to win that match in convincing fashion, I am sure. I will let you guys go first on this. I have a feeling that there'll be some agreement on this, but let's hear what you guys have to say. Who wants to go first?
I'll
Unless you
go
want me to go
first then.
first. Okay, you go
Doesn't
first. Let's
matter.
do it. All right.
First of all, me, obviously, we're gonna win this. We're gonna slam this out. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Um, I think I'm the best opponent that there ever has been and ever will be. So there you go with that. But in terms of like who, we all know who we think it is, but I don't think so. I don't at all. I think that it is Shane McMahon.
Here
Um,
comes the money.
Here comes the money. It makes the most sense. He finally gets his wish. You know, I don't know what's going on with Cody. It's been complete radio silence. We've had sources and behind the scenes, but we don't have any kind of actual confirmation of anything. And WWE is not known for having really great surprises in that way, unless it is some really undercover mission. Remember when they had the Hardy Boys come back, and I think they
Mhm.
faced a New Day. I'm not sure which one. That was like the last time I think I was genuinely surprised, and that was a good
Mm.
surprise. But I don't know if it's actually Cody. If it's Cody, great. But I still kind of feel that it's going to be Shane. Shane gets his wish. They fired everyone from the company. So who else is it going to be? If it's not, then Goldberg.
Oh,
Because we don't like you laugh, and yet how many times have we seen Goldberg? And Goldberg keeps saying, I'm done, but we all know he's not done. So those are
mm.
my top three. So it's Shane, Cody, then Goldberg.
No Bray Wyatt.
No. Here's the thing, and I know you can't never say never, and I do believe that. I never say never with that. But I think that the moment has not passed long enough now.
Mhm.
Because even if you look at Cody, Cody was gone for years and he started his own thing. But
Mhm.
the groundwork, and if you include the history of the Rhodes, his daddy, and all of them, is in WWE. That technically, you can argue and say, is his home. Everything that Dusty has done was with WWE. He grew
Mhm.
up with them. He's been a part of WWE longer than he's been a part of AEW.
All right.
So that to me makes more sense. Bray, the way how Bray, was let go, and we know the words of him saying that, I can't wait to tell my side of the story of what really happened and how everyone seems to be, when you're released, oh, he wasn't that good anyway, or, there were issues. We brought in the whole situation with he was difficult backstage. If you look at the whole thing, they treat Keith Lee that way, where anytime someone seems like, oh, they have something to say, they're it was always issues backstage. So right now, I don't see Bray uh, going back, at least not for another 2 years. I'm
Mm.
not a person who's not going to. We've seen Warrior, and that was a disaster of a mess. And Warrior came back. You have countless other people. Scott Steiner just did a whole speech at the Hall of Fame. So nothing. You never say never with anything. But
Right.
at this moment, it's too early for Bray. Bray, no.
Yeah.
So
I could definitely see that as far as like it's too soon. He probably has projects that he wants to do. Um, I'm sure we'll see him back at some point. It's probably not going to be at this Mania. You mentioned Cody and his history and everything. Cody's last WrestleMania was in Dallas in 2016. I remember he was part of that Intercontinental title ladder match that Zack Ryder ended up winning.
that was such a good one.
And that was a nice surprise. Like that result was great. The crowd went nuts. We thought it was great. I remember with Cody, he was Stardust bringing out the polka dot ladder. And if I'm not mistaken, if I had this right, it was the previous year that his father had passed away. So that was kind of like a tribute to his dad having the polka dot ladder, and the crowd popped for it. I thought that was a cool moment. Um, so there's some history with Cody and Dallas and WrestleMania in that regard, and that would make it fascinating. I don't think that they're going to have Cody be announced as the opponent right away. It'll probably be Shane. And I think it'll be like it'll be done to just kind of like get the fans to lower their guard. Like, oh, and Seth will destroy him, and then Cody will come after that. And I don't know whether the match will happen at that moment or it'll just be an appearance to build up for a match at a different time. But I think Cody does appear.
Wait, you mean like a double entrance, like what they did with AEW, and when they had Byron Danielson and what was it, Adam Cole? They debuted like back to back.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Here's the thing. Maybe Seth and Cody have a match if it's a pure squash with Shane where Seth Rollins doesn't even break a sweat. If it's a match that lasts more than 2 minutes, then it would be unfair for Cody to face Seth Rollins after he had just gotten a little bit of a workout. But I think it's like they've been telegraphing this for the longest time. Like, Seth Rollins' dreams have been dashed. He's experiencing a nightmare. There's all kinds of these things that they're doing that. They're being very obvious about it. And I don't buy for 1 second all this talk about, he's having second thoughts. He might back out of it. It's WrestleMania. He's not going to back out of this. So I think it's going to be Cody, but I don't think it's going to be Cody's the first one that we're going to see. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
If just compare that to AEW?
If that happens, okay, then Seth obviously beats Shane and Cody beats Seth. That's how I see that playing out. Rich, what do you think?
Well, those are very good takes. Now for some controversy. Let me start by saying this. Congratulations to Ring of Honor's newest acquisition, Samoa Joe, tonight. That just happened. Wow. So there you go. That is connected to this because what you guys said about the rumor of Cody Rhodes backing out, I believe he is trying to get involved with Ring of Honor now because he's been in contact with Tony Khan. So I don't know what that means yet. These are all rumors, right? Because we don't know anything that's true. But what I will tell you this, and this is where the controversy comes in. I don't trust Vince McMahon. This is a guy that thinks he knows what's best for business, and he's almost 80 years old. And he's been wrong multiple times, especially in the last couple recent years. So I 100% expect Shane McMahon to be the person that he announces tomorrow night, because we know the McMahons have to have the spotlight on themselves one way or another. And yes, that actually was the match that Seth Rollins was scheduled to have for quite some time before all the fallout happened with Shane McMahon. So I'm pretty sure that that's the match that's going to end up happening. It'll get a pop from people who are Shane fans, Yeah,
as we've seen in person.
Yes, as we saw in person in Dallas. So yes. I'm definitely expecting that to be Seth Rollins' opponent. As for Cody Rhodes, I don't know what's happening with Cody Rhodes, but if in fact he is still going to go to WWE, I think that's going to happen on the following night on Raw, because they have to have some type of surprises. And it's still going to be in Dallas. So that I think is likely to happen. It would have been more interesting if it happened at the actual WrestleMania, because I know they wanted to create a moment like when the Hardy Boys returned. That was that was the story that I saw coming out at the very beginning of this, when they were talking about they wanted to debut him at that time. But if all this other back out stuff, I believe that is accurate. That back out stuff is accurate. I believe that's accurate. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I expect to be disappointed. And if Shane McMahon is the person that does show up at the end in this match with Seth Rollins, and that's it, then this match also should not have been in WrestleMania.
So that's yes. So I was waiting for that part. We've already got most of this card not belonging on WrestleMania, and I'll say this: that if Shane happens to be that person, then I agree. Yeah. And I totally didn't I totally forgot about the Ring of Honor factor, and that is very key here, especially with the whole thing of Mr. McMahon being the one to announce the opponent. Seems to be a very recent development, and that makes more sense if he's introducing Shane than if he's introducing Cody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very feasible that we get Shane and we're waiting for Cody, and Cody never happens because Cody's going to Ring of Honor and running that. That's entirely possible. We'll see. We'll see. It definitely brings some intrigue to Saturday for sure. Which it's on the East Coast. It is now Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anything else before we move on? Going once, going twice.
Sorry if I am muted. Okay. I think the more that my Blondo talking with the different voices, I think that you're more correct. Ricky. I don't think that it's technically even Shane McMahon in that sense of wrestling. I think that, you come out, here comes the money. And he's like doing the thing. And he's like, oh no, it's not me. And then we have the Stardust music. And it's Cody. If he didn't do the whole Ring of Honor thing.
It could be like that.
It could way than having Shane.
Instead of it being a match, it's just Shane introducing. Yeah.
It's just Shane doing the, I don't know, the rumors about me are not true or whatever, and here's Cody. And then that's just it, too. Because no one, in all honesty, here's the thing. Nobody wants to see a Shane match, even if it's for 2 seconds and it's a squash match. We had that whole situation that happened with previously. Remember, he wanted to be the top 3 or the top 4 left in the ring during Royal Rumble. That was a complete design. His own dad fired him. I don't think Shane will ever be fired from the company ever. But I do think that maybe Vince definitely doesn't want to see him wrestle anymore because of that ego situation. But I don't see there being any issue with him coming out there and be like, haha, you thought it was me, but it's actually Cody.
So, guys, make one last comment on this. I like Dana's take a lot. One thing we know about Shane and Vince is that they like to be in the midst of making a lot of headlines, because recall what happened when they took over WCW. They both played a role in that. That's why I think if it is Cody, that's pretty smart, because everybody's going to be talking about that. The fact that they were there and that they were the ones that introduced him, that'll get a lot of attention. But again, I guess we're going to have to wait and see, because I have no idea what to believe with all the stories going back and forth about Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, at this point, seeing is believing.
I'm more in.
What's that? What?
I'm more interested in wanting to know whether or not they'll mention AEW if it is Cody.
No.
I mean, like literally, former AEW executive, we won the war.
No, it's going to be, I was down south.
What speech will Cody do?
It'll be South. They'll reference the South, and we'll figure out what they mean by that. But, the same way they say, oh, that company up north,
state.
So let's move on. Singles match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair, the champion, going up against our favorite wrestler, Ronda Rousey. I gotta think about this. You guys, who wants to go first?
Dana, you want to go first, or should I go first?
Why is always me? It doesn't matter either
ladies
way.
First.
I don't care for Ronda. Always ladies first, so no one else wants to go. But here's the thing about Ronda. Absolutely garbage juice. She's terrible on the mic. She somehow seemed to regress and got even worse. Um, she's terrible. Her matches are just not that great in general. And, she's a one trick pony, which is something that WWE is just known for. We look at, for example, Goldberg was awful, and so are so many other people. But just in terms of this whole match and this whole build-up, I don't care. They can both go. Go follow your husband in AEW. I don't even want her in AEW. Here's the thing. I'm it's so hard because I don't want Charlotte Flair to win anything anymore. And I'm genuinely just tired of her overall. But I don't want Ronda Rousey to win anything. Period. Because she's just so god awful. And she just seems to lack some form of personality. I don't know. If you're a terrible heel and then you're a terrible face. And then you can't wrestle and you can't talk. As I sit here fat staring at a computer. But overall, in general, it's so hard for me to decide, but I'm going to have to go with Ronda Rousey. I say that with an eye roll and a deep sigh because just in general, Charlotte has won it 18,000 times that her run seems meaningless. Ronda Rousey's run seemed meaningless the first time she run. And it seems meaningless now. But she is at least someone who could have the opportunity to get into a storyline or something in which I may care about. I would actually appreciate if they changed how they formatted her. I want Ronda Rousey to be the the middle school Brock Lesnar. Remember when he didn't speak and Paul Heyman was like he was the advocate and he spoke for him? I want Paul to we'll get into that match later, but it'll connect a bit more. I want Paul to manage more than one person, and I want that to be Ronda. Ronda cannot speak. She's not very good delivering lines just in general. She sucks. She doesn't have a personality. So she comes out there with the raccoon makeup that she does, and she's just that would be perfectly fine. And you have Paul Heyman come in there and he be the advocate. She needs someone to work her. And that has to be Paul Heyman. So I want her to win and I want them to change how she is in the company. So, yeah.
Rich, what do you think?
All right. First and foremost, a quick comment because this is obviously more interesting than this match. Samoa Joe is going to be on AEW Wednesday night. They announced that tonight. So there you go. So I think it's fair to say he's AEW Ring of Honor, and they had the image of Samoa Joe with AEW All Elite. So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
excellent.
And he choked out. What was it, Jay Lethal? He choked out in the ring. I'm like, oh my god.
I think so. I guess that's going to be the first opponent. So to get back to this dull match, I agree 100% with everything Dana said. I did catch Ronda Rousey cutting a promo, and yeah, she's horrible. I don't like Ronda Rousey as a face either. I prefer her as a heel. So I will be rooting for Charlotte to win this match, retain her title, and this will be the building blocks to turn Ronda Rousey heel once again. So she'll be ready for her match with Becky Lynch next year at WrestleMania. That's it.
I have this it takes a lot for me to pull for Charlotte, and this is one of those cases where I'll do it knowing that I'm going to be on the losing end. Ronda's totally winning this because Ronda's one of those cases where WWE gets stubborn and they don't care about fan reaction. They're just going to do what they want. And Ronda, going in and winning the Rumble, none of us wanted to see that happen, but it did. And we knew it was going to happen, and it did. And Ronda's going to win the title as a face or whatever. I don't know what the reaction will be like, but, I consider me underwhelmed. This was a match that people didn't ask for it, but we got anyway. So, and you have Ronda won the Rumble, so she could win the title. And I felt like Becky Lynch would have been the more compelling opponent because that match should have been the one-on-one at that WrestleMania a few years ago. It was Charlotte that got thrown into that because, she's a bigger name and whatever. They're delaying the inevitable, and maybe that's part of the plan is that, let's say Ronda wins and let's say Becky drops the belt, and at some point that allows Becky to chase Ronda for the belt, but with the roles reversed, with Becky as the heel and Ronda the face. But the fans are going to root for Becky in that situation if that happens, Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. But I thought that Becky would retain and that Ronda's going to win, and I'm sticking with that. So that's my prediction for there. And I want to move on because I don't want to talk about this match anymore. To close out the first night of WrestleMania is not a match. It is a TV show segment, the KO show. Kevin Owens will be hosting Texas's own Stone Cold Steve Austin. They had been teasing this for a while, and we thought it was going to be a match between the two, and there will probably be a physical confrontation of some sort. But obviously, Austin at his point is probably not in any condition to have a match. Understandable. I don't know what to expect other than KO getting a stunner. Are there any surprises that you guys think we might be in store for?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear them.
I've heard multiple reports that Steve Austin is ready to take some bumps. What that means, I have no idea. Obviously, there will be a stunner, but I kind of feel like it will be all of his signature moves that he will perform on Kevin Owens also. And obviously, Steve Austin will win. This is in Texas, his hometown. KO disrespected it, so that's what's going to happen. If it's only a stunner, though, I'll be very disappointed because, again, the promo he cut, that whole little video package talking about, oh, yeah, all this time I've been away from wrestling. I'm expecting a hell of a lot more than a stunner because otherwise it's a waste of time doing all of that promo work. So we'll see what happens. But I actually expect a little bit of physicality in this confrontation. A lot more than just him stunning and then asking for a beer and leaving. But we'll see.
That'd be pretty amazing if he actually has a match. Like, even if it's like 5 minutes, like still, like, and that could be the one thing that propped that into the main event.
Yeah.
As opposed to opening WrestleMania with it or putting it somewhere in the middle. To have a special moment where like Austin will have a match. That's an interesting theory. What do you think, Dana?
I
can't hear you. Hold on.
Okay, sorry about that. I like that theory very much so. Also, side note, Undertaker is a born-again Christian. So, a lot of things going on at once. I think that what Richard said, I really like that. I personally do not have a problem with this segment. We all need a bathroom break. And this is going to easily be, a 7-hour show compared to 14 hours. So, them doing this segment does not bother me. I just want someone also with Steve Austin. I don't know how many of the older wrestlers that were, not in the company anymore are from Texas. For some strange reason, JBL stuck out the most, but I don't think he's from Texas. But it'd be really nice if it's like Stone Cold is like, and I brought my, like, he's, beating up Kevin Owens or whatever. And like, I bought my friends. That was a terrible impression. I'm so sorry for that. And like some of the older former wrestlers come down and beat his behind. I like Kevin Owens. To me, he's entertaining. We all know and love Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that, they never really fully did an Austin 316 day. I mean, the last time it wasn't really very good that he when he was there.
Mhm.
So I think it would be just in general a nice way to say, "Hey, we're sorry for botching that, and here's something else." Remember the last time he celebrated Austin 316? It was during the whole Thunderdome thing when no one was there, and that was depressing. So
That
I'd
was funny.
love for
Yeah.
him. It was funny, but it was just him like, and then like no
Well,
one
it
was
was
doing
the
anything.
performance center where he's like, "Hey, give me a hell yeah," and you pan in and there's no one in the see.
Like it
That
was
was actually kind
funny
of
at
funny.
that,
Yeah,
but it was sad also. Just in
yeah.
general, they tried. I don't think we should really judge them during that time period because no one knew what to properly do.
Mhm.
But I think they do owe it to him. I would love for him to come out and it'd be a nice little spectacle. What happens if we bring out Undertaker? Undertaker is there, obviously. He's live, still talking a whole hour. Um, so if you bring like a couple of the buddies over and they have a brewski and like Undertaker's music is playing and then KO's just all sprawled out and they all do finishes on him. That sounded really exotic, but they all do they do finishes on him and that would be it, and that's the segment because you need that break. There's always that break in between of in general all the shows including WrestleMania because you have to. It's just a lot to deal
Mm.
with, so I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, just to confirm, JBL actually is from Texas, and he's someone that I believe that Owens mentioned during one of his things. When he
Hmm.
was making fun of the state and all that. So I could
So
see
bring
that.
out, yeah.
Shawn Michaels is from Texas. Undertaker's from Texas, as you said.
Hmm.
There's a whole bunch of people that could get involved in that if that's the direction that they go. Um, I do want to say that since you mentioned we talked about that segment, the 316 and all that stuff, that I I thought the WrestleMania from a couple of years ago when they had to on the fly do everything from the performance center, for 2 nights was some of their best work that I've seen in a long time. That I actually thought it was highly entertaining and admirable that they were able to put on such a good show with no audience. Um, and like I always remember Kevin Owens dropping the elbow on Seth Rollins from the WrestleMania sign. That's one of those moments. Undertaker's boneyard match with AJ Styles, all that stuff. It forced them to think outside the box more than usual, and it delivered in a way that I wasn't even anticipating. I was like, this is actually really good. Um, and I hope to see more cinematic style matches. I don't know if we're going to see any at this WrestleMania, but um, it's such a cool thing, and they can put on a good show when they're really trying. It's going to be a challenge to see that with this card. Whereas we're halfway through at this point, but I mean, we'll see. Like sometimes the venue that you're in can help carry a show. And AT&T Stadium has one of the largest capacities of any stadium in the world for these kind of events. So um, it'll be interesting to see how the energy is and whether that translates to these matches. Um, and I can certainly hope that does because I'm agreeing with Rich that there's a lot of these matches that seem like you could take them off the card and no one would even notice. It was just not WrestleMania caliber, matches. But let's go to Sunday. Sunday, Sunday,
Wait,
Sunday.
I just wanted to say something. This
Oh,
could
sure.
easily be a cinematic match. I don't know how they'll use it. Maybe it's something that takes place outside of the theater of the stadium. I don't know, like a
I
skit
just don't
thing.
see
But
that.
because here's the thing, Stone Cold. can't wrestle like he used to wrestle. He has the whole neck situation that's going on. But in a cinematic way, they can pull that off. Like The Undertaker was, much older and things hurt and pop. But they were able to make that a pretty entertaining match, cinematic wise. You don't see them somehow, maybe they did it in secret, because they did The Undertaker in secret-ish. And that happening?
No, because a lot of people are there to see Austin in the flesh. They want to be part of the interaction. They want that kind of, they want to feel part of the moment. And that's kind of, you got to have Austin in the ring when that happens. You got to have him there to salute the fans with the beer and all that stuff. You can't do that in a tape thing. That will not go over well. That's just my feeling on that.
Yeah.
But
I was just wanting a Stone Cold match.
I mean, it'd be the safest way to pull that off, but in terms of Austin's, well-being and everything. But for the experience, for what we expect from WrestleMania, the fans have to be part of that. And we've seen fans poo-poo on taped segments that show up on pay-per-views. I want to say that was the case with Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt in like a haunted house match or whatever it was.
That was awful in general.
It was awful, but it was also fully taped, and the crowd wasn't for it because they're watching this on a TV the whole time instead of seeing the action happen in the ring or whatever. It doesn't translate the same watching that in the arena versus watching it at home. It's just one of those things. So
I remember they did that before the pandemic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was before.
And it was in like that weird haunted house. Ugh.
That was like, I felt like that was them trying to capitalize on the final deletion, because that had happened on Impact, and so they're like, let's do something like that, and it didn't quite. You guys, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share?
Dana.
No, Dana, you go ahead.
Why is me that isn't being the
ladies first? Ladies first.
No, just thank you for listening to us, and we'll be back with other predictions, next year.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah, thanks for the continued support, checking out all the content. So looking forward to sharing more thoughts on other things in the future.
Yeah, and also just remember, in general, it's WrestleCon week. It's Wrestle everything this weekend. So watch NXT. Remember, there's the GCW. That's happening. We did ROH. We watch that. You have the Hall of Fame. You can catch that on demand. Again, you have the NXT. I said NXT already, but there's a lot of things going down. We have Bray Wyatt. Maybe somebody surprised somewhere. Remember, he's floating around. Uh-oh. We don't know what's going on with him. And we have a whole bunch of other wrestlers that are indie talent just as well. And they're just as good. And so just watch everyone's shows. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan right now.
Absolutely. It is best time of the year as a wrestling fan, with WrestleMania, all the events happening around WrestleMania weekend. All the stuff, what's going to be, what's next after WrestleMania, all that stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see. I don't mean to brag, but I'm going to Dynamite coming up in Boston this coming Wednesday.
Oh, really?
So wait a second. You get to see Joe.
Samoa.
Oh, that's right. Yes. This is even better. Oh, man. I just realized Suzuki. That. Yes. Hell yeah.
You get Ring of Honor.
I get Ring of Honor. Oh, this is, yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yes, this is a good time. Very good time. So yeah, like I said, enjoy wrestling. There's lots of it. Lots more to come. Thank you as always to our listeners and viewers for watching our show, supporting the coalition, all the great people who help run it, all the content that we provide. We do it for you. Thank you very much. Obviously you, Dana, and Rich, you guys are amazing as always. Thank you guys for being great co-hosts as well. We'll do it again at some point. Who knows when that will be? But we definitely know that we'll do the WrestleCast for WrestleMania next year. As always, maybe we'll do it on location in Los Angeles. We'll see. That would be quite something, huh? But let's save our pennies for that. But anyway, I'm gonna close this out. We're again almost at 3 hours. Thanks again very much, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.